This lesson is combined variation. Our learning target is I can model and solve problems using combined variation. So what you're going to see is you're going to see direct and you're going to see inverse, like we were doing the last 2 days. And then you're also going to see something called joint variation, which just means that you're going to be multiplying a bunch of different things. Okay. So when it says jointly, that just means multiplication, but like more than one thing being multiplied. So here's how we write this. Y varies jointly as X and Z. Okay, so that's how you write that. And then we're going to use the next parts. So Y is 5, X is 3, and Z is 4. So we're going to use this information to figure out what our K value is. So I'm going to just color code it so you can see it a little bit better. Alright, so here's what we have. Okay, I'm going to clean it up a little bit. K times 3 times 4 is just 12K. And then if I wanted to get K by itself, I would divide both sides by 12. So K is going to be 5 over 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace my original with that K value I just found. So I'm going to clean this up for a little bit. Alright, so here's what I have. We used the first part of the sentence to write the equation. We used the 3 numbers to find the K, and then the last part is what we're actually trying to find. So we're trying to find Y when X is 6 and Z is 8. So all you have to do is multiply those 3 things together, and because you do have a fraction, make sure you put that in parentheses. Alright, so you get Y equals 20. So very similar to what we were doing the last 2 days, just some extra stuff going on. Alright, so this one's a little bit harder, I think, sometimes. So Y varies directly as X, so direct variation looks like this, and inversely as Z, so divide by Z. Alright, so Y is going to be 5, X is 3, and Z is 4. So we're going to use that information, we're going to plug it in to find out what K actually equals. Alright, so this is what I have. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the 4. So I'm going to multiply by 4 on both sides. So remember, these cancel out. So now what I have is 20 equals 3K. And then the last thing I'm going to do is divide by 3. So now I know that K equals 20 thirds. So I'm going to take this K value and I'm going to plug it in right here. So now I'm going to write my new equation so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, and then the last part is what you're actually trying to find. So X equals 6. I'm going to replace X with the number 6. And Z equals 8, so I'm going to replace that with 8. So I'm going to do 20 divided by 3 times 6, and then divide it by 8. Alright, so Y equals 5. Okay, so we're going to do this one together. A varies jointly. Remember, jointly means lots of things being multiplied, as B and H. And then I'm just going to do this. So A is 16, B is 2, and H is 8. Alright, so I'm going to do this. 16 equals K times 2 times 8 is 16K. If I want to get rid of the 16, I'm going to divide by 16 on both sides, so K equals 1. So I'm going to go ahead and plug the K back in and clean this up a little bit. And then I'm going to use the last part to actually figure out what I'm trying to find. Alright, so I'm finding A. 1 times B is 8, H is 16. All I have to do is multiply all 3 of those numbers together, and I get the A is 128. Alright, so now let's look at the application problems, or just word problems. So we're always going to use our first sentence to figure out how to write the equation. So the number of girls varies directly as the number of boys, but inversely as the number of teachers. Okay, so I'm going to try to color code that so you can see a little better. Okay, so there's three things that you're comparing. The number of girls, I'm going to use G for girls. The number of boys, I'm going to use B for boys. And the number of teachers, I'm going to use T for teachers. So here's how you write that. So the number of girls varies directly with boys, but inversely with teachers. So remember, the first thing you always get to is like your Y variable, but I'm just going to use G. So the first thing you get to should be right to the left of the equal sign. There should always, always, always be a K value. Because we said directly, that's why I have multiplication. And then because it says inversely, that's why I have division. Okay. So then the next sentence is going to be how we figure out our K value. So I'm going to underline that and color code and then talk about it. Okay. So sometimes they change the order. Just make sure that you're plugging them into the right places. So there are 50 girls. I'm going to do that in blue. There are 10 boys. I'm going to do that in orange. And there are 20 teachers. I'm going to do that in yellow. So that's the places they're supposed to go. So sometimes they change the order. You just have to read carefully. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for K. So I got to get rid of division first. Remember, you get rid of division by multiplying. So it's kind of like I'm going to multiply by 20 on both sides. But when I do the right side, these cancel out. So what I have, I know you can't read that, 20 times 50 equals K times 10 is 10K. To get rid of the 10, I need to divide. So K actually equals 100. Alright, so now that I know this, I'm going to put 100 in for K. Alright, and then the very last sentence is going to be what you're actually trying to find. So I'm looking for how many boys were there when there were 10 girls and 100 teachers. So I know that my girls is 10. I know that I have 100 teachers. I know that my K is 100, and I'm just trying to get B by itself. So I'm going to get rid of the dividing by 100 first, and the way I do that is I times by 100. These cancel out. So I have 100 times 10, which is 1,000, equals 100 times B. And then I'm going to get B by itself by dividing by 100. So there has to be 10 boys. Alright, let's look at some more problems. So strawberries vary jointly as plums and tomatoes. So I want you to pause the video and I want you to see if you can write the equation. So do that in 1, 2, 3. Alright, so because we start with strawberries, it's going to be strawberries equals K. And because it says jointly, that means multiplication. So multiplying by plums, multiplying by tomatoes. Okay. The next sentence is going to be how we find K. So I want you to pause the video and see if you can plug it into the right places and actually find K. Try that in 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you should get that K equals 5. So now I'm going to replace K with the actual number 5. And then I'm going to read my last sentence. Alright, and then the last part is what we're actually trying to find. So, how many plums would go with 40 strawberries and 2 tomatoes? So, 5 times P times 2 is 10P. I'm going to divide by 10. And so I get 4 plums. Alright, so hopefully this is making sense. Alright, so what I want you to do is I want you to use the first sentence to come up with an equation. And then I want you to use the next sentence to come up with what K equals and put it back in the equation. So save the very last sentence to the end. Or, I don't know if you're going to do it all the way through. But pause the video and try it in 1, 2, 3. Okay, so here's what I did. Because we have two variables that R could represent, I chose R for rabbits, and then I did C for raccoons. You can do whatever you want to, it doesn't matter. And now I'm going to use the second sentence to actually find out what K is. Alright, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 2, and then I'm going to divide by 40, so K is 1/2. So now I'm going to replace my K with 1/2. Alright, so now I'm going to read the very last sentence and make sure that I understand how to do this. So I'm looking for how many raccoons when there are 20 squirrels and 5 rabbits. So this one's a little difficult. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by C on both sides. So 5C equals 1/2 times 20 is 10. And then to get C by itself, I got to divide by 5. So C is 2. So I need 2 raccoons. Alright. I'm a firm believer in color coding things and labeling to make sure you don't get confused. So if you are getting confused and you're not doing it with the ways that I'm suggesting, then I'm not sure how to help you. Okay, so I want you to try this one all the way through. I want you to pause the video and see if you can figure out how many potatoes went with 10 mules and 10 farmers. Okay, you can see my work. I color-coded, so P stands for potatoes, M stands for mules, F stands for farmers. It's talking about jointly, so it has to all be multiplication. So I used the second sentence to figure out what my K equals. I got the K equals 30, and then I plugged it in, so it would take 3,000 potatoes. Okay, if you need help finding your mistake, then let me know. If not, let's move on. Alright, I want you to try this one all the way through. See if you can do it. Pause the video and try it. 1, 2, 3. Make sure you pay attention that it says the number of administrators squared. So look at my formula. Notice that I did A squared because that's what it's telling you to do. Alright, now I'm going to plug in and find K. Alright, so you can see how I did this. I got the K equals 50. I plugged it back in. And then I tried to figure out how many students were there when 8 teachers and 1 administrator. So I got 400 students. Alright, so there's an assignment on haiku for you to try. And if you have trouble, let me know. If not, good luck. Bye.